second. All right, well, welcome everybody. It's Wayne Kimmel for our 76 Capital Leadership Series that you can find on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, and just really excited to be here and have a really special guest tonight. His name is Austin Hatch, and he is somebody that I think you'll love to hear his story. You'll hear all the things that he did, not only as someone who was an excellent basketball player and got a scholarship to the University of Michigan, but he's somebody also who has survived 2 plane crashes. You know, unbelievable to the things that you've been through in your life so far. And Austin, welcome to our 76 Capital Leadership Series.
Thanks so much for having me, Wayne. I really appreciate it. It's an honor and privilege to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, you know, as I said, I typically like to go through, you know, the bio and the history of the person that we're bringing on to our 76 Capital Leadership Series. But, you know, tonight, I think would be really an interesting thing to really hear from you and hear your story from you and all the things that you've been able to do in not only achieving incredible things, but also getting through some of the tragedies that you've been through. So, you know, I think Austin, why don't we start off with growing up? Where did you grow up, and tell me a little bit about your family as a kid?
Yeah. So I was, born to an incredible family in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I was my hometown, and just had really the kind of childhood, most kids would dream of, an idyllic childhood, if you will. Grew up, playing outside all day, playing, dawn to dusk in the summertime, and going to school in the fall, winter, and spring. Tragically, my family, we were flying back from my grandparents' vacation home. They had a lake house in northern Michigan that we flew to often from Fort Wayne. And tragically, in 2003, when we were preparing to land, the aircraft proceeded to crash, and my mom, my older sister, and younger brother were tragically killed. And my dad and I survived, but not without, deep emotional pain. My sister was a ballerina, and she was, the kind of girl that was just the life of the party everywhere she went, and had such an incredible life to live, such an incredible life ahead of her. And my little brother, my dad was 6'5", and so pretty tall, and Ian, little brother Ian, was a little guy. He would have grown up to be tall, but we called him Mr. Big, to make him feel good growing up. But yeah, he was awesome too. And tragically they passed away in that accident. My dad was remarried about 2 years afterwards to an incredible woman named Kimberly, who had a family of her own. So we had a great blended family. The basketball was kind of an escape for me to get away from everything, because I was 8 years old. It's hard to really even process, what I had lost and what actually happened. But basketball was a way that I could kind of just get away from all the tough things in my life, the grief and all of that, and I began to have some success on the court. Coach Beeline came to see me play in February of 2011. Had a pretty good game.
2011. You're back playing basketball, right? Yep. You're at an extremely high level. You're a sophomore in high school, and
I don't know about extremely high. I mean, I was okay, but.
Well, as the story goes, as I've read, Austin, I think Coach Beeline at the time was the head coach at the University of Michigan. And, head coach of University of Michigan doesn't just show up to see any kid. You dropped 30 that night. And what happened after that?
Yeah, so I had a good game, and, we beat a school. And I went to a really small school, beat a big school across town that we had never beaten. It was kind of like Butler going to the Final Four, right? Sort of like that. And but yeah, so I played a good game. He liked what he saw, and then a couple months later, he offered me a scholarship to come play for him in the University of Michigan, and I accepted it right on the spot, because it was my dream to go to Michigan. I grew up a Michigan fan. My mom went there. My dad did research at Michigan before going to medical school at Wake Forest. Both my grandpas went to Michigan. And we had season football tickets growing up. And I think I went to my first Michigan football game when I was less than a year old. So I was born in October. I think I went to my first football game the following fall, so in September maybe of the next year. I was taught to bleed white and blue. So
that's amazing. That's amazing. So at that time, who were some of your favorite basketball players at Michigan during that time?
Yeah, well, when I committed,
Yeah.
I'd watch guys like Zach Novak. He played. He's similar to me, or I should say, I played similar to him. And that, he's a pretty good shooter. I was a pretty good shooter. I'm a little bigger than he is. I got about 3 inches on him, which is what maybe could have been useful at Michigan. But both had to play hard, but we were both decent athletes, but not very athletic. So had to play hard and smart. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. So when and then it was just at that point, after all the adversity and all the things that were going on, you were at an amazing point. And then unfortunately, it happened again.
Yeah. So I got to be pretty good. Life was good. Not to say that, getting a scholarship to Michigan was the ultimate goal. Obviously, I wanted to get there and play, and obviously, I still, missed my family that I lost, 8 years before.
Sure.
I thought of them every day. But life was pretty good, and I want to say I accomplished my goal, but I wanted to be a great player at Michigan. I don't want to just get the offer and then just go there and just be there. I wanted to go there and thrive. So but in order to get there and thrive, you got to get the opportunity to go first, right? So I had the opportunity to go, and I looked forward to a great career there. But tragically, 9 days later, my family and I, my dad, my second mom, I never really used the term stepmom. My dad, my second mom, and I were flying to the lake house this time, the same place we were returning from 8 years earlier. And the aircraft proceeded to crash again, and my dad and second mom were killed on impact, and I was injured extremely bad, and had a traumatic brain injury, punctured lung, broken ribs, broken clavicles, a whole bunch of stuff that I don't even know. But the biggest thing was the traumatic brain injury. It put me in a coma for about 2 months, maybe 9 weeks. And then when I came out of that coma, I had a long road to recovery ahead of me. I got to work, and so the way I look at it, Wayne, is before the accident, I was working to be the best basketball player that I could be beforehand, right? And now that since that accident happened, I didn't have control over that, but I knew I had control over how I chose to respond. I think that's so true for anything that we're all facing, especially now with COVID-19. None of us have control over the adversity that we're facing. Thoughts and prayers out to everyone who's impacted. Thoughts and prayers out to everyone, because everyone's impacted in some way, shape, or form. And we don't have control over that impact, but I think we can all control how we choose to respond.
Well, look, you went through some incredible tragedies, but again, you rebounded again, and you were able to, and also, as I think I've read and listened to some of the stories on ESPN and CBS and other places that have told your story, that the guy who really stayed with you was Coach Beeline. And when he was able to, you were in a situation where he kept his word, and he kept that scholarship for you, and you were able to go and go to the University of Michigan.
Yeah, it's actually one of the things I talk about when I speak now. I travel the country sharing my story, talk about overcoming adversity, really about thriving in the midst of adversity. And one of the things I talk about is integrity. And of course, integrity to me is being honest and doing the right thing when no one is looking. Of course, that's true. But I think integrity, especially in the context of overcoming anything or really achieving anything, integrity is about following through on our commitments and doing what we said we would do, especially when our circumstances change, right? Coach Beeline offered me a scholarship, and I was playing at a pretty high level. He saw, I had a future helping his teams win championships on the court, but, the accident happened 9 days later. Well, we committed to each other. Then 9 days later, the accident happened, but his follow through on that commitment didn't change, despite the fact that I couldn't play. He made it very clear to me. He came to see me in the hospital in September of 2011 when I was in a wheelchair and couldn't walk, not because my legs were broken, but because my brain couldn't tell my feet to put one foot in front of the other. That's how bad my brain injury was. And he said, Austin, whenever you're able to get to Michigan, I can't wait to coach you. Doesn't matter, whatever role you're able to fill, you're on our team. I can't wait to have you in our program. And I mean, just how powerful is that? Because it's very easy to, at least for me, it's easy to follow through on commitments when I get what I thought I was going to get, right? When the situation is good, when everything stays relatively the same to when I originally committed, it's easy to follow through, or it's easier to follow through than it is if, the other side of the party, because commitment's a two-way street, right? If the other side of that commitment is unable to follow through on their side for whatever reason, it's tempting to make me not want to follow through on mine. But Coach Beeline, he followed through on his regardless of the circumstances. He made it clear to me that when we committed to each other, I obviously had the expectation that I'd be able to play. He expects every person that he offers a scholarship to be able to fulfill their role on the court. But, he didn't say, Austin, I'm offering you this scholarship only if you're able to fulfill your role. If you can't fill your role, I'm going to pull this offer back. He said, I didn't say that. I would have, if I meant it, I would have said it. And he said, I didn't mean it. I meant I'm offering you a scholarship. You're a part of our program. You're a part of our family for 4 years. And yeah, just an incredible man. Incredible man.
Well, we're really excited to have you here tonight. This is Austin Hatch, our guest on the 76 Capital Leadership Series. Austin is telling an incredible story of someone who has overcome incredible tragedy in his life, but is constantly moving forward and constantly able to achieve more and more things in his life. And, we just left off and you walk onto the campus of the University of Michigan, and what was, must have been, the most unbelievable feeling, but I guess at the same time, you were having all sorts of other emotions. I mean, what was that like when you first set foot on campus there in Ann Arbor?
Yeah, well, I had one of the motivating factors for me in my road to recovery, because I had a long way to go, right? I was in a hospital bed and I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, I couldn't really do anything, I couldn't feed myself. And then I had that, but I knew I had Michigan in my future 3 years from that time. So I realized, okay, I'm gonna have to get to work because I got a long way to go if I want to get to Michigan. If I want to get to Michigan, but I can't walk right now, I can't go to the other side of the room and grab a tissue to blow my nose. I'm gonna have to, regain that ability to walk and go get that tissue before I'm gonna be on the basketball team with the University of Michigan, one of the best schools in the country. Obviously, I'm a little biased, but so yeah. But having Michigan in the future was so motivating for me, and that was really a driving force. In addition to what I had learned as an athlete, competing against myself, because part of me becoming a good athlete. I mean, I was a pretty good athlete at one point. I'm not going to say. I mean, I don't know how good I would have been at Michigan, but I think that something we got to learn is we got to be able to compete against ourselves, right? Because in my case, there wasn't anyone who was in the same position as me, so I couldn't measure myself against anyone else. But I just you compete against yourself. You be the best you can be the best version of yourself. And if we do that every day, if we continue to compete against ourselves and strive to get a little bit better every single day, I think we'll like where we end up at the end of things.
So one of the big things that we talk about at 76 Capital, and again, as investors, in entrepreneurs that are trying to do the next great thing in the sports industry, that, we always talk about people that are, and the kind of people we want to invest in are passionate, they're smart, they're nice, and they want to do really big things. And they're just so fired up and excited about what they're doing within their business. Mm-hmm. What is that thing that with you that gets you up out of bed every day, that gets you kind of fired up to do all the things that you're doing now as a motivational speaker, someone that's going out and really getting other people, excited about, what they do, and just being an inspiration to so many people out there?
Yeah, it really is a blessing to be in the position that I'm in today. Be able to share a message about overcoming adversity and about thriving in the midst of adversity and providing perspective, and hopefully getting people energized, right? Because we're all going through things, and it's easy to allow our circumstances to define the course of our life. It's easy to say, oh, I was going to do this, but then this happened, so that now I'm not gonna be able to. And obviously my circumstances impacted me. I wasn't really able to play at Michigan the way I wanted to. Be really a contributing player. But if all I could do was, shag balls in practice, rebound for guys and shoot around, unload luggage on road trips, and help the team in that way, and be positive in the face of adversity. We went through some things at Michigan. We lost some games we shouldn't have, and went through tough stretches. But my senior year, we went to the national championship game in San Antonio, which is pretty cool. And I'm not going to say I had a big role in that, but if I could just be a little positive, if my teammates could see me in practice running sprints as hard as I can, despite the fact that I finished dead last every single time by a wide margin. But if they saw me running as hard as I can, I mean, I don't know. I'd like to think that maybe made a positive impact on them and maybe encourage them to give a little extra too. So, sometimes we're not going to be able to fill the roles that we dream of. I mean, obviously I would have loved to be a contributing player on the team, but, since I couldn't, I just tried to bloom where I was planted and thrive in the role that Coach Beilein was so nice to give me.
I think it's absolutely incredible, and you're an incredible inspiration. And and I talk about and I mentioned this to you earlier. I talk about my brother, who was originally my cousin, who was a real inspiration to me, who, similar to you, survived a plane crash. Well, he only had one, but you're unbelievable what you've been able to do. But he similar to you, lost his parents, lost his brothers, but has been someone who has been not only an inspiration to me, but someone who has achieved greatness in his life, not only in sports, but in business and in the practice of law. And, what makes you want to do this? What gets you up? What makes you say, like, I'm going to go out there and do this? Did you ever have a point where it's like, yeah, you know what, I'm not doing this. I'm going to just take the day off or just, I got to just chill out, and this is too much for me. Was there ever a time that you felt that, or has it always been like, I'm just going to move forward and just make stuff happen?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there were those tough days. There were those tough days that where it was hard. It was a little tough to get going, get out of bed in the morning, whether that's literally or metaphorically speaking.
Sure.
But on those tough days, I just try to always remember my bigger purpose. Whatever, because for me it's honoring my family in heaven and my faith, and it's I want to make them proud. I believe I'll see them again someday, and I just want to make them proud. And I can't wait to hear. Hopefully it's 80 years from now. Right. And, hopefully my wife and I have an amazing life together, and I'm sure we will, but hopefully it's a long time from now. But when I see them again someday, I just want them to be proud of the life that I've lived and how I've overcame. And yes, but yeah, on those tough days, just remember, my dad and I were best friends, and, he pushed me and it helped me become the best I could be and helped me, get to the level of where Michigan was a remote possibility. And we always worked hard, and I just remember I have his voice in the back of my mind on those tough days. I don't want to get out of bed, but I can hear him just tell me, Oss. He called me Oss. He said, Oss, man, you got to get to work, man. You got to get to work.
That's incredible. I mean, maybe you could share a little bit, a little bit of kind of those backyard one-on-one basketball moments that you and your dad spent so much time together playing.
Yeah. So he was a pretty good athlete in high school. Pretty good. I mean, obviously I didn't get to see him play, but I think maybe he gave himself more credit than he deserved. But yeah, he was a first team All-State athlete in football and basketball. So pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. I questioned the level of competition that he had back in the day, but I'm sure he was good. I'm sure he was good. And in fact, he played in intramurals and stuff, and we actually went to father-son basketball camp together growing up, and I could see he was pretty good. He was left-handed, but yeah, we played one-on-one pretty much every night. He would always make time to play me one-on-one. He was a doctor, a pain management physician, anesthesiologist who specialized in pain management, and would see 40, 50, 60 patients in a day, would miss lunch, would work straight through the day, 7:30 or 5:30 or whatever it was. But when he got home after dinner, he'd always have time to play me one-on-one. And, it was really the relationship we had was almost like brothers. Obviously he was my dad, but felt like a brother to me at the same time. Yeah, we did everything together, and it was just so special, and I can't wait to be on the other side of that if my wife and I are blessed with children, which we hope to be. So.
Well, that brings up kind of another really interesting part of your story, and how you and your wife met, and then both love to hear that story.
Yeah. So my wife and I we're in political science, poli-sci 101. Which is a big intro class for a lot of majors. It's a prerequisite for a lot of majors, a lot of programs, and it was a prerequisite for my major and for my wife. She's a year ahead of me, and actually is in a different program than me than I was at Michigan. But we both had to take it, and the class is there's about maybe 2,000 kids in the class, so it's huge.
Wow.
And the class was divided up among 3 different lecture halls. The professor was in one of them, and he was like video called into the other 2 via the projector, right? And the lecture halls were organized by last name. And my wife was in a different one than me originally, but then I guess she said she got an email saying she needed to change lecture halls, and so she did. And I don't know, maybe she heard I was in that the other lecture hall. I don't know how. I don't know if she actually got the email. Maybe she did. Whatever. But she came into the lecture hall that I was in, walked in, 15 minutes late, which is typical for a college girl for an 8 a.m. class or an 8:30 a.m. class. And and I flagged her down, asked her to come sit by me, and the rest is history. The rest is history. So
that's amazing. And her name's Abby, right? Is that?
Yep, Abby. Formerly Abby Cole. She played volleyball. She was Abby Cole when she played volleyball at Michigan, but now she's Abby Hatch. So
that's amazing. So she was also an athlete like you, which was what was that like? Did you go to a lot of her games and while you were together at school?
Yeah. I went to a lot of her matches. She was pretty good. She was a 3-time All-American volleyball player at Michigan. She's 6'5", so she was pretty good. She was pretty good at the net. A middle blocker in volleyball, so having that height was nice. And she actually was offered an opportunity to play basketball at Michigan too out of high school, but she chose volleyball. And so she was a really good basketball player, and she still is. And so we compete even still to this day. We still have the competitive gene, even though we're not playing our sports anymore. Whether it's one-on-one or whatever, or it's a board game, we're both still very competitive.
Do you ever play 2-on-2 with other people, or go out and play pickup, the two of you and other people?
We haven't done that yet, but
you got to do that.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea because you know what? Maybe what we do is get in a 2-on-2 tournament with maybe 5 other couples, and kind of like you win, you stay, and maybe we could play the whole night.
Well, it's funny because I was thinking about that when I was reading about some of her background and what a great athlete she was. My sister played basketball in college, and my brother he played baseball in college, but also was an all-state basketball player. So the 3 of us used to go, and we'd go to a random place to go play. We would get 2 other people. We go out there and play. They're like, "Oh, we got the girl. Yeah, whatever. We'll kill them."
Yeah. Yeah. No, you never underestimate him. Never underestimate him. And you know what's funny? So the first time we played one-on-one, I thought I should take it easy on her and let her win, right? And then when she scored, so I think we were playing to, maybe we were playing to 11 by ones and twos. And then when she scored, 6 or 7 without, like me, like taking it too easy on her, I was like, okay, I got to take her more seriously. But yeah, it's really fun. Really fun.
It's like, it sounds like, you guys have those similar kind of stories of Reggie Miller and Cheryl Miller, some of those stories about them playing one-on-one, but then also playing others they were like legendary,
Yeah, no, for sure. And obviously we wouldn't be as good as Reggie and Cheryl Miller, but yeah, maybe we should, before we have kids, maybe we should sign up. But the other thing is if and when we have kids, hopefully we're blessed to have them, maybe we'll make the kids. Maybe we'll say they don't get Christmas until they beat us, right?
That would take a long time with the 2 of you. I mean, being so good. But talk about another thing which I think is really great. And sort of again, I just want to thank Austin Hatch for joining us tonight on our 76 Capital Leadership Series, which is being streamed live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, as well as on YouTube. And we've really been so lucky to have you join our show. We've had a great lineup of leaders across the sports tech industry, the sports betting industry, the esports industry. Actually, this Wednesday coming up, we have one of the chief marketing officer of one of our esports companies, and she has an incredible story of her own and what she's been doing with Nerd Street Gamers. But tonight we have Austin Hatch, who has an incredible story of his own, where he's a 2-time plane crash survivor and inspirational speaker, had a scholarship at the University of Michigan, went to Michigan, and just as you said, part of that whole family at Michigan, part of the Michigan basketball family. And it was amazing to see as we were leading up to tonight's talk, how many people were commenting and liking and retweeting some of the promotional things that we were doing from 76 Capital about you, that were, Michigan fans, part of that Michigan family. And it's pretty incredible that you're part of that whole family.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's I don't think it's an accident that I committed to a place like Michigan. 9 days before everything, my life changed again. 9 days before the second plane crash, and the way I look at it, Wayne, it's obviously it's been a tough situation. Coming back from the second one and with all the adversity. Well, coming back from both, and the second one, with all the adversity that was posed again, but with all the injuries that I suffered. And the road to recovery was long, and I never really got back to being able to play at Michigan. But the Michigan family just welcomed me with open arms, and they were all there for me, so supportive. And I told Coach Beeline, and after we lost in the national championship game my senior year, and I obviously had to express my gratitude to him for everything that he's done for me. And he, throughout my time there, he knew that, but, I just told him that, thanks, you didn't have to do it. You changed my life forever. And he said, there's probably no program in the country who wouldn't have done what we did, Austin. But then I say, Coach, it's not what you did, it's how you did it. And it's the way he honored my scholarship, the way he included me, the way he, made me feel like a part of the family. And that goes as well for the whole Michigan family as well. So I'm so grateful for the Wolverine Nation, Wolverine community, just for everyone that, has welcomed me into the family with open arms.
That's amazing. It's amazing. And, one of the things that we talk about at 76 Capital is that some of the same attributes and traits that make you great as an athlete, as someone that's got to go out there and compete on the court or on the field, things like, being, incredibly passionate about what you're doing, to be able to have that incredible desire, to be able to have that persistence, being able to sort of get up after getting knocked down. All those types of things are the things that make a great sports tech venture capitalist, sports entrepreneur, right? I mean, certainly we feel the same way. I mean, we're incredibly passionate about what we do, but it's really about the entrepreneurs and the people that are actually building the companies that we invested in. We were, as we talked about earlier, before we got on, on this live chat that we're doing now, we were talking about one of our portfolio companies, Shot Tracker. And earlier this week, we actually had the president of Shot Tracker, Davion Ross, and talking about all the things that he needed to do to make that company and get that company to where it is today. It's pretty incredible. And, I think, Austin, it's amazing also to see when you're out on the speaking circuit and talking to different major corporations and talking to different groups that want to hear you and all the things that you're doing to try to inspire others. You talk about this word grit, and being a Philly guy, that word means a lot to us. We certainly, down the road from us, we have Angela Duckworth and the book that she wrote about the word grit. And that's something that we really, we pride ourselves here in Philly, being that, like, tough and hardworking, and what that really means. But to you, I think you break it down into 4 different areas. And I'd love to hear more about what you have to, how you look at that word.
Yeah, well, Angela Duckworth's definition is great, and she's kind of the grit queen, if you will. I guess kind of the first one to really explore the whole idea of grit, the whole concept of grit. And she mentions, that she studied, people, kids in elementary schools across the country, and tried to figure out, like, who's going to be successful here and why. And if she figured out that it wasn't talent, it wasn't IQ, it wasn't physical health or good looks or family background, it was grit. Right. The ability to work hard at things for a long period of time, and be consistent over the long term, not just intense in the short term, but about consistency over the long term. It's all very true. It's very true. But for me, I like to build on that definition a little bit, not to, go against it. But my definition is maybe a little bit more specific, if you will, and perhaps a little more applicable to, the overcoming of obstacles. So, grit to me, the 4 letters represent the 4 key components, but I believe it's driven by knowing our purpose first and foremost, working for something bigger than ourselves. Because I believe if we're working just for ourselves, it's pretty likely that at a certain point in life, we're going to hit some form of adversity, opposition, challenge, trial, tribulation, what have you. that'll cause us to give up or quit if we don't have that driving force for why we do what we do. Whatever the driving force is for you, it's different for everyone in the world. But I think it's really important for us all to recognize, that driving force to help us on those tough days. When the days when we don't feel like, going to work or showing up or, following through on our commitment to the team or being there for the team. We got to have that driving force that'll help us do that. So, and when we have that driving force, that'll drive the 4 key components of grit, which to me, the G stands for the growth mindset. The growth mindset views every setback as an opportunity, every failure, every shortcoming. The growth mindset views that as an opportunity. Even when we inevitably fall short of a goal, the growth mindset doesn't believe that failure is a permanent condition. The growth mindset believes that, okay, I fell short of my goal this year or this month, but that doesn't mean I'm never going to accomplish my goal. It just means I'm not there yet. I still got work to do. And in fact, by falling short today, that's going to help propel me forward to learn things about the process of overcoming adversity that are going to be advantageous to me down the road. And then I'm not necessarily thankful for the adversity I'm facing right now, but I'm not thankful for falling short, but I'm going to learn things from this that'll be advantageous down the road. So when we have the growth mindset, that'll drive us to make the decision to be resilient. The R is the decision to be resilient. We're never a product of our circumstances. I believe we're the product of how we choose to respond. For me, I couldn't control the events that happened in my life, and obviously, I couldn't control the injuries that I had. They were what they were. But I knew I had complete control over how I chose to respond. And if I wanted to get to Michigan, I was going to have to spend more of my time focusing on my response to the adversity that I faced rather than dwelling on the less than ideal circumstances or dwelling on the events that I couldn't control, right? Because if we look at it from an economics perspective, right, the economics of our time is probably the most valuable thing. And the opportunity cost is something that, econ was something my major required, for better or worse. And so the opportunity cost of spending our time and energy dwelling on the circumstances, dwelling on the things we can't control, that's time and energy that we could have spent investing on the things we could control, which is our response. So I think that when we make that decision to be resilient, we focus all of our time and all of our energy on our response to adversity, because whenever adversity happens, I think there's 3 questions we ask ourselves kind of subconsciously. When the adversity happens, we kind of, will internalize, what does this mean? Does this adversity mean it's the beginning or the end? Is this the end of something or is it the beginning of something new? And I think it's important to look at things as a new beginning rather than as an end of something. So when we have that, when we figure out that question, we decide what to focus on. Are we going to focus on the fact that I didn't deserve this? This happened to me. Why me? Or are we going to focus on the fact that, okay, now here's a great opportunity. I didn't wish this on myself, but since it happened, I'm going to focus on the things that I control, my attitude, my work ethic, my response to adversity. So, and then the third question is, what are we going to do about it? Right? Because people say things get better with time, but if we do nothing in that time, nothing is going to happen. So the third component of grit, in my opinion, is integrity. And of course, we all know that integrity is about being honest and doing the right thing when no one is looking. Of course, that's true. But I think especially in the context of overcoming anything or any obstacle or really achieving any goal individually, but especially collectively, integrity is about following through on our commitments. And integrity is about doing what we say we're going to do, especially when our circumstances change. Wayne, we were talking and I mentioned Coach Beeline, right, offered me a scholarship and I was playing at a pretty high level, right? Pretty high level, relatively high. And he saw that I had a future helping his team on the court. So he gave me a scholarship. He made an investment in me. But despite even though I couldn't really give him the ROI that he thought he was going to get from me, his follow through on his commitment didn't waver. He never batted an eye. He said, "Oh, when I make a commitment, I make a commitment. When I make an offer, I make an offer." And we committed to each other. So it wasn't just me committing to him; it was him committing to me as well. And so I think that, I think the integrity that I'm talking about is following through, especially when our circumstances change. The last letter of grit is T, and T to me stands for that team first mentality. We got to think about the we before the me. We got to think about what can we do to help the we succeed rather than focusing on the me, because if the we succeeds, we'll succeed too. And I think especially now with this, with the COVID-19, I think this is the epitome of a team effort. It's going to take a team to overcome anything truly significant. It's going to take everyone on the team buying in to help us overcome this. It took everyone on the team buying in to help me overcome the obstacles that I face, with the injuries posed by the second accident that almost took my life. And it's going to take a team to overcome this as well. So that's grit to me. I love Angela's definition. I love that. Maybe mine builds on hers a little bit.
Well, I think your definition's amazing. I mean, again, we're here with Austin Hatch on the 76 Capital Leadership Series. This is amazing. You know, he talked about grit, the growth mindset, the resiliency, making sure you have integrity and this team first mentality. It's interesting. You talk about team first mentality. I was watching the last episode, I guess the fourth episode of the Last Dance, Michael Jordan's and the Bulls' run for the championship, and you know, it was just talking about kind of the difference between having Doug Collins as the coach, where he really put Michael Jordan in the middle of everything. The ball was in his hands all the time, to Phil Jackson, and how Phil Jackson implemented, you know, the triangle offense, and that everyone, and it was about team. And it was about the team, and then that's when Michael really became great.
Yeah, well, because, you know, it's, you know, you think about a team, right? It takes five guys in basketball. It takes five guys playing as one. And, you know, because, you know, obviously Doug Collins is a great coach, but him having Michael as the center, not that I can't be too critical of him, but, you know, I think when Phil came in to coach him, you know, it made the other guys more of a threat too, because if you got five guys that are all threats on the floor, and you don't just got to focus on one guy. I mean, I think that you know, that's a harder team to defend. And obviously, you know, Phil Jackson did the same thing with the Lakers too. With the Lakers, which is more of my lifetime, I wasn't really I didn't remember. I was really young when Bulls were there in the late '90s. But, you know, when Phil Jackson, he won 3 championships with Kobe and Shaq in the early 2000s, and he did the same thing. Now, obviously, you know, Kobe's a great player, and maybe Kobe and Michael were both the leaders of the teams. Obviously, they were, but, you know, you got other guys on the team, whether it was Shaquille O'Neal, Robert Horry, Scottie Pippen, Steve Kerr, right? I mean, everyone on the team's got a role, and that role is important. Otherwise, they wouldn't be on the team. And that's kind of how I looked at my situation. You know, obviously, I didn't have the same role as a Karis LeVert or Duncan Robinson or Mo Wagner, who were stars of the team on the court at Michigan. But I took pride in the role that I had. I took pride in, you know, what I could do, whether if that was shagging balls in practice or rebounding for guys in shoot around. I thought if I could give it an extra 1%, if I could fill my role 1% better, you know, a rising tide can lift all boats, right? If I can fill my role 1% better, maybe they can fill their roles 1% better too. And the reality is, maybe 1% in the Big Ten is the difference between winning and losing, because a lot of games are decided by one possession. So,
well, those 3 guys that you just mentioned all are in the NBA now, right?
Yep.
And that's really impressive. I mean, it's really impressive that you were, you know, on that again. The level that you were at, you know, in high school to achieve the opportunity to have this, to get the scholarship. You got the scholarship. Being able to go out there, spend time, and do everything that you could to help them as much as you could while you were there is incredible. And I'm sure, you know, that they really appreciated every bit of everything that you did with them.
Yeah, you know, I mean, like I said, I don't know. I didn't make a tangible impact on the program. You couldn't see like scoring. I didn't score. I scored like 2 points in my entire career, a couple free throws, right? And you know, maybe my contribution to the team didn't really do much, but like I said, you know, if I could fill my role to the best of my ability, if my teammates saw me in practice running as hard as I could, and when we would run. So maybe over 4 years, maybe I ran maybe 1,000 suicides, maybe, just to make the math easy.
Yeah.
1,000, 500, 700, whatever the number is. I finished dead last by a wide margin every single time. But I ran as hard as I could, right? And I'm not trying to say, oh, look how hard I worked. I'm just trying to say that if we all give it everything we have, and if we all do our best to reach our full potential, there's no way that can't elevate the performance of the whole team.
Well, I believe, from at least from what I've seen and watching videos and seeing when you came out senior day with, I think it was with Abby and your grandparents, and just watch the whole team come around you. Mm-hmm. They respected you, they cared about you, and I think that you certainly were a really integral part of the team. So you would definitely achieve something those 4 years. So congratulations on all that.
Yeah, well, thank you. And, you know, I think that, you know, I guess obviously, you know, my teammates knew that I couldn't really contribute in the way that I wanted to. But I think they appreciated the fact that I did whatever I could to help us. And like I said, I don't know if my contribution, I can't say that, you know, maybe, you know, if I wasn't on the team, maybe the team would have been just as good. I don't know. or maybe they would have been better. I don't know, but I think the fact that that I did what I could to help the team, that I contributed in the ways that I could. I think my teammates appreciated that.
And those are really important things. I mean, when you think about in the business world as well, right? I mean, it's about, you talk about this, team first mentality. That's in sports. That's in business. It's all about looking to help others and lift other people up. And you were able to do that. So, you talked about the team. We talked about, the five guys on the court, or 5 women on the court from the, but talking to someone, as part of the Michigan family, I have to talk about the Fab Five. So we now have one of the Fab Five as the head coach there. And what's that like, going back and seeing what's going on at Michigan today?
Yeah, well, Coach Howard's a great guy, and obviously, I think we Michigan, obviously, we didn't get to finish the season the way we hoped to, with obviously the adversity posed by the virus and everything. But Coach Howard had I think about as good of a first season as anyone could have expected. And I actually outperformed, about just by record alone, a lot of the coaches a lot of the longer tenured guys. I'm not saying he's a better coach than them. I'm just saying, I think that he did really well, and big shoes to fill with Coach Beeline leaving. But I think he did about as good as we could have expected for a first year coach. And keep in mind, obviously he played at Michigan. He'd coached in the NBA for the last 10 years. But for a first year head coach to be that successful, especially in the beginning of the year in the battle for Atlantis, beat some of the best teams in the country right off the bat. That says a lot about him. And obviously, we had a couple losses that maybe we wish we didn't have, but overall, I think it was an incredible first season, and it's only going to get better from here on out. And I think more than anything, he's a player's coach. He's a great guy, and just a guy that I would love to play for if I was still playing. Obviously, Coach Beeline is incredible too. They're different, but one's not better than the other.
That's amazing. And as being a Philly guy and having Phil Martelli on the bench, really makes me smile to see him there. And he's just such an incredible inspiration to so many young basketball players all across the country. And having him and Jawan on the bench must be amazing for you guys, even coming from an alum from the University of Maryland. And you guys we're all in the Big Ten together. But I think watching, every time I see Phil out there, and I got to cheer for you guys, because just think the amazing things that he did at St. Joe's, the things that he did with so many players that he was able to groom and take to the next level. Just it's an exciting time for you guys. Well, this has really been great, Austin, and I really appreciate you joining us here on our 76 Capital Leadership Series. Sharing with us your incredible story, the tragedy part of it, but also now what you're doing and how you're going out there and then you're inspiring people and you're sharing your definition of the word grit, this growth mindset, this resiliency, the integrity, the team first mentality. These are things that are way bigger than just sports. These are great things that if you're a corporation out there, or if you're you're trying to build a team, or you want to get going, to hear you and your story and how much depth you have and how much you've really thought about these things and how you can help others is a really big thing. So I appreciate that. I appreciate everything that you're doing right now. I certainly wish you the best. And, I guess one of the things I'd love to kind of wrap up with is, what are some of the other things that you love to do that are, maybe not specifically from a speaking perspective now, but what are some of the things that you're really into? And maybe there are ways that we can help each other, or there are other ways that anyone out there who's watching, could, reach out to you and figure out ways to help you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you asking, and obviously I'm really passionate about the speaking business, and that's my my full-time job now, trying to grow that as much as possible and to inspire and empower as many people as we can, one person at a time, right? By sharing a message about overcoming and thriving in the midst of adversity, and more importantly, I think he's giving a little perspective too. about, the fact that we're all going through tough things, but it's about how we respond to it. And yeah, I mean, speaking is my full-time gig now, but, I love to play golf. My wife and I love to travel. But yeah, I'd be honored to speak to any and all organizations who would value a message about overcoming and thriving in the midst of adversity, especially now, because we're all going through things. And obviously I realize with the whole social distancing thing, now is probably not the time to have me come in and speak to a group of, a couple hundred salespeople or whatever the organization may be. But, when things get back to normal, I'd be honored to help any organization in any way that I can.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I don't know if you saw earlier today, Adam Schefter, another Michigan graduate, did an online commencement address today, which was pretty awesome. And I could see you doing these types of things for groups all across the country. I mean, you're an inspiration. You're someone that has we're so lucky to have all the people in your life, even though it's never long enough, right? It's never long enough to have those amazing, influences and people that you were able to, and family members that were only with you for a short amount of time. But I'll tell you, they should be really proud. And as you said earlier in our talk, when you get a chance to see them, whether that's 80 years from now, they're going to be proud of all the things that you've done, with the life that you and Abby are building together. And, I from all the things that we do at 76 Capital and the types of companies that we invest in within the sports industry, if there are ways that we can figure out to help each other and get you involved in some of the things that we do, we'd love to do that. And continue this conversation, continue this relationship, and just see how we can help people, because everything that we do at 76 Capital is all about trying to, help people and make this world a better place. And everything I've heard from you tonight is really right on message with all the things that we like to do.
Well, thank you very much for your kind words. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'd be honored and very appreciative of an opportunity to add value in any way that I can and help 76, impact people in a positive manner. And I think more than anything, so my message is about overcoming adversity, right? But I think more than anything, I'm kind of obsessed with adding value. I want to, add as much value as I can to any organization on the planet, any organization that I'm affiliated with. And whether that's sharing my message about overcoming adversity and thriving in this adversity, but I think more than anything though, even for people who aren't going through things, I don't want to say, my message is end all be all, the greatest message ever. But I think if we do some of those things that I talked about, not all of them, maybe if people could just take maybe one thing that I said, I think maybe that might help them reach their potential too, because I think we all have a responsibility to do what we can to reach our full potential. And it's not going to be easy, because I think there's a lot more people who don't live up to their potential than there are those that do. And I think if there's any way that I can help you guys help more people accomplish their goals, and I would love to work together. I would love to add value to as many organizations and as many people as I possibly can.
Well, I look forward to figuring out more and more ways to do that. Spending time together once we come out of this post-COVID world. And as you said earlier, want to just make sure that everyone stays healthy and safe during this time. And again, Austin Hatch, amazing story, an incredible inspiration to all. Thank you so much for joining us here on our 76 Capital Leadership Series. And everybody, have a great night. Thanks a lot again.
Thanks, Wayne. I appreciate it.
Take care.